Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new podcast, Collector Chatter. I'm here with my good friend Miguel. A lot of you may know him as Pop Migs. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good, Charlie. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to get this podcast going.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I know we've been talking about this for a while now in regards to just doing something, some kind of podcast, and we decided to start this one, Collector Chatter. So it is going to be based off of collecting and toys and collecting anything really, and just kind of going into that, realm of things. And I guess just seeing what you guys think of this. So
I think we're both big Funko guys. So, as Miguel said, we'll be talking about all types of collectibles, but I think that's our bread and butter, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger. I mean, they have something for absolutely everybody. It's almost gotten out of control from where they started
yeah,
to where they are now.
it really has. I mean, Funko, like you said, Funko's our big thing that we collect. I mean, that's kind of how we reconnected. I mean, just to kind of give you guys a little
Yeah.
history on that. I mean, me and Charlie went to school together, went to college, we're in the same fraternity. And then we kind of didn't speak for a while and then just kind of got back together and reconnected based off of Funko, really, and him seeing my pop page, which I have a YouTube page and, doing collecting and unboxings and all that kind of stuff. And then he just kind of hit me up. I was like, "Oh, you collect Funko and Pops?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I haven't really personally known anybody besides my community of people that I just met through Instagram and through YouTube that actually collected. So the fact that I knew him personally was pretty cool. So in that case, we just kind of started talking, and then from then we've pretty much talked almost all the time, just in
Yeah.
general with stuff dropping, and
It's
because
crazy.
every day there's something dropping. So it's
It's
gotten
been
pretty
like
cool.
such a
But
pleasant surprise. So yeah, like rekindle a friendship over Funko. It's
yeah,
pretty cool.
it's been funny. Yeah. And like, I would have to explain to my wife, and I'm like, yeah, I was like, I went to school with him, and I was like, he also collects. And she's like, oh my God, yeah. Cause like I said, personally, I only probably know a handful of people that I knew before actually me collecting that collected themselves as well. So that was kind of like how we connected and that thing. So, I mean, yeah, we wanted to do a podcast for you guys just to kind of give you, pick our brains on like things that are going on now and news and new stuff and just everything that has to do with the world of collecting. Like Charlie said, it's mostly going to be around Funko because that's one of our biggest collections, anything Funko related. But I'm sure we'll kind of dabble into other things that have to do with, any kind of collecting, that kind of stuff. But I wanted to actually just ask you, Charlie, just kind of how you started collecting yourself and basically, what before Funko, even just kind of
Yeah.
like what got you into collecting and that kind of stuff.
I've definitely always been someone who's been super into movies and TV. And, I even remember back, from when I was little, I think the big thing I collected was Ninja Turtles action figures and then Power Rangers. I was a huge Power Ranger person. And I remember like that was like the height of collecting when I was young. And then I've always been, as a lot of my friends know, I'm a huge Marvel and Star Wars fan, and they just tend to have a lot of collectibles. And I'll never forget, I've actually been collecting Funkos for a pretty long time, like way before they were actually mainstream.
Okay.
Star Wars and Disney, they were like some of the, original licenses. So when I saw those, I'm like, oh, these are cool. This is something like I've never seen. I just really liked how they kind of the pops, they stood out. They were, you knew what they were. And I started collecting from there. And then ironically, they just like blew up. And I kind of it was really cool to me to be such a huge movie and TV fan. I mean, they make collectibles for everything. You normally would only find the
Mm-hmm.
stuff for the mainstream type of things, and this has everything. So that's
Yeah.
kind of my story.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the big thing with Funko in general. I mean, just being able to pull so many different type of people because of the fandoms and how many different fandoms. Because to this day, there's new Funko Pops that are coming out with like a show or a cartoon or a big fandom that has such a following that I have no idea about or even knew that it existed. So it's kind of crazy. And I know you're a huge Star Wars fan, obviously, and Marvel, like you said, and Disney. And the fact that Funko has those licenses, I'm sure, is a big reason why obviously you got into it
Yeah, it
because they
totally
have all
is.
those different ones.
Yes, and taking all my money.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's a topic alone, just how much money we spend on Funko. But me personally, so in regards to collecting, I mean, I've kind of been, like you said, a collector kind of for a while, and this is before Funko. So I would say early on it was, I mean, as a kid, I was big into Matchbox cars and little cars like that, and just having so many of them. And then it kind of went into cards and baseball cards. And when Pokemon like first
Yeah.
came out, that was a huge thing. So had to get all the cards. And then as I grew up, it got into more of a mature thing with like clothing and sneakers, hats, sneakers, that kind of thing. And like that became, I guess you could say, an addiction. Some people say collecting could be an addiction, right? So it kind of got into that
Totally
realm
is.
of things, but it got too expensive. And then like eventually I got into Funko Pops, and it's interesting because I can't pinpoint the exact first pop. I know a lot of people ask you like, what's your first pop, but I know the group of pops because what happened was I got into the collecting of Funko a little bit later. I'm sure a lot later than you did. I want to say probably about 4 years ago or so. So not, still a pretty decent amount of time. But before, like, or after at least, Funko was kind of known, like you said, mainstream. And the fact that Batman, me being a huge Batman fan, and Batman was one of their big, things that they had, I kind of got into Batman, then Walking Dead. And then like little by little, I just saw that Funko had everything. Like whether it was a
Everything.
TV show, a movie, or a cartoon, like you found it in a pop form. And I thought it was cool because, they look like the figure, they give you that nostalgia of like an old show or a movie that you haven't seen in a
Yeah.
while, or that was your favorite. And that's kind of like what got me into it. It got a little out of control and out of hand in the sense of just how
Yes.
much I got. And I'm sure the same thing with you, where there's just always something that drops and you're like, wow, that's amazing. But it kind of has given me an idea of like, is it that you really want it and it's amazing? Or is it kind of that FOMO of like, if you don't get it, you're gonna wish you got
Got
it,
it.
and that kind of thing. So like that's kind of where I'm now. And having a channel has gotten me like to open up stuff that like obviously I do for content. You want to make sure, like I personally keep all the stuff, but now it's gotten me a lot pickier on like what I want to get, I want to collect, because I don't necessarily, I know you go after a lot of these like drops that'll come out. And I kind of like, I'm like, I'll just wait because now I'm like running out of room and things like that. So, I mean, what do you think on that front as far as like collecting everything, or like, what do you think about
Yeah.
that?
It's, I used to be more like, I get a few of this series, I get a few of that series, I get a few of this series. And then I kind of like, you know what? I'm collecting too many. I'm going to stop getting like any TV show I liked. I would try to get like a pop from it, whether it was Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. And then all of a sudden they started making like the Game of Thrones line got out of control. And I was like, you know what? I just can't get all of them. Like they made one of every character. Anyone who watches Game of Thrones know how many
Yep.
characters are in that show. And then I kind of now mostly collect Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel, which I know they're some of the bigger lines, but Disney, I kind of go with. I'm a huge like the Disney parks fan. If a
Mm-hmm.
parks pop comes out, they're kind of the ones I'm gonna get. Like I'm not gonna get them for all the Disney movies, as there's just too
Mm-hmm.
many. Marvel, I
Yeah.
kind of try to pick the characters I like the most. Star Wars, I try to get a bunch of them, especially now with the Mandalorian, but they've even
Mm-hmm.
gotten a little like I remember in the beginning, they made them of the main characters. Now, when all the movies come out, they legitimately make just so many. And now with the cons, when they come out, they'll make a special one for each of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's got, I'm like you said, running out of room. I try to get like, as many as I can because I do mostly like those ones, but you're right. You can't get them all. There's just too many.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like that's where the conversation comes. Like, are you a completionist, or are you just, like getting things that you personally like, or like you said, picking and choosing? And I think that's kind of something that in the beginning, I was completely different. The beginning was the same way. Like a show came out, or a pops came out for a certain show, and I'm like, oh my God, I love that show. And I would get all the whole,
All
wave.
set.
Yeah. And then they would come out with a second group of them. And I'm like, oh, I got to get those. And then eventually, like, it was good to build your collection. Like, if you don't have any, of course, but then you start to realize like there really is so many. So you got to start thinking about like, does this, like, do you love this one that much and you think you need to keep it? Or is it just like, all right, it's cool, and I feel like I just want to have it because it's part of a collection, that kind of thing. And that's something that I've changed my mindset on, because recently I think the biggest thing is space. and
Yeah.
money, of course. So like you start to think, all right, now being more picky on, like you said, I'll collect, my biggest collections are so horror. I pretty much have not every horror pop, obviously, there's a ton. And there's also some movies maybe I don't necessarily like, but I'll get all the ones I really like or are really classic. And then Marvel and DC are so big, but I've kind of narrowed it down to like DC's mostly Batman and Joker, not necessarily every single character. And then Marvel, a little bit bigger variety for me. But then I'll have some Mandalorian, some Star Wars, some Game of Thrones. Like I'll mix in those. It's just I'm getting a little bit pickier when it comes to that.
Yep.
But that's kind of like what like I see when it comes to like collecting and problems that we go through and that kind of thing. And I'm sure people can relate to us that also collect in general in sense of like either they don't know what to collect or that kind of thing. But I actually wanted to talk about like what your mindset is on new collectors. So if someone's like brand new and starting collecting, like what you think is the best way to start a collection now that you're years deep into it and seeing kind of like how you started collecting and stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the best ways to start collecting would be to pick the one thing you like the most. So I can give an example for myself. That would be Star Wars. And one thing that, I think would be great to start for collection, if Boba Fett's your favorite character,
Mm-hmm.
maybe try there. If for those of you who don't know, like we said, they make so many pops, like whether it's a different pose, it's a different color, it's a artist
Yeah.
series, this or that. Maybe try to start collecting all of the Boba Fett ones or like all of the Stormtrooper ones. And like that's kind of like a cool collection that you could start off and then branch off. But if you really do try to get all of them, it really this is a very hard. I know there's some dude I had saw specials in the Guinness Book of World Records who have like the
Yeah.
most pops, and it's like out of control. His entire house, like clearly, I mean, Miguel and I both have a family. Like it's just not
Yeah.
realistic. Yeah, but it's that's how I would start.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, like, to each his own. If you want to collect everything, whatever, go ahead and do it. But you have to understand kind of what it takes to collect, and money is one, and room is one, and you really gonna start to think about what do you love. And I do the same thing. I actually so with like a bigger thing like Star Wars, for instance, I did the same thing. I went after a very specific character. Boba Fett was one of them. Mandalorian was another one, and I kind of tried to get all of those. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan in the sense of like a huge fanatic and know every single movie. I've seen pretty much a majority of them, but to know all those small little characters to even really go after those. So that's kind of like what I do. So I think we're on the same page, but I
Yeah,
think honestly it's based off of our experience because when we started, it probably wasn't that way. So like that's why I think the same thing with like if you're getting into collecting now and you're still pretty new, Funko's dropping stuff all the time. I mean, we're going to go into a section here. We're going to talk about some news and drops and some stuff that's coming out in this coming week. There are stuff that we saw, and you're going to just see there's so much stuff out there that's continuing to come out just on the Funko front. And that's just with pops. And, Funko
yeah,
makes other things like sodas and other figures. So that's a whole nother realm of stuff. But it starts to make you really think like, do I want to get everything or do I not? So if you're starting off, I would say the same thing as Charlie is just be smart. Go after like if there's one show that you're a fanatic about, you absolutely love it and you're obsessed with it, get all those pops. And if you like a certain character here and there, you can start getting some of those. But if you just like a show and you think it's cool and then they drop the whole wave, you don't necessarily have to buy the whole thing. I mean, I personally don't think because then otherwise, like you said, you're going to be that guy who's just filling his entire house with pops and I don't know.
yeah.
Just
It's
it's
just
kind of the way I see it.
that you,
A
you
little
can have a
nutty.
dedicated, like, nice, fun room to it, but when it starts going everywhere, like I mean, we can go on all day. Like for all you, obviously, if you're listening to this, you probably are a collector, you want to get into it, but there are so many Funko Pops. Just the pop line alone, it's unreal.
Hmm. Yeah, it really is. It's interesting. It's a cool thing for sure because it just fits so many molds. Like I said, that's the biggest thing. It can go into any fanatic, any fandom that you have. You can find something for it, and that's kind of like my tidbit to collectors. Like you said, you're probably a collector if you are listening to this, and if you are, hopefully you take some of our advice. If not, maybe you've been doing it forever and you do it a different way. But I mean, that's kind of like my input on it. Um, but another thing I wanted to talk about is kind of just I know we've been talking about this for a while. This is a pretty hot topic, especially very recently. So I kind of wanted to bring it up to you, but it's just like retailers that sell Funko, right? So we have obviously big box like kind of stores like Target and Walmart, and then there's these small, comic book shops and that kind of thing. So if you guys don't know, let's say you're a collector and you're not really into Funko, Funko is pretty big in the sense that it's sold in a lot of different locations, right? You obviously have Funko Direct, so you can go right to the Funko shop. You can go to a lot of comic shops, small little collectible shops. You're going to find more than likely some kind of Funkos or some kind of Pops. Bookstores and stuff will even sell it. And then we have our Targets and our Walmarts and the big box lunch and Hot Topic, that kind of thing. But when it comes to these companies, right now, how do you think these people are like handling these things? Because there's so many instances that I feel like there's been cancellations, and I know you just went through this, so I want you to kind of tap into that. But with Walmart, I know for a long time it was a big deal, and now I'm seeing Target as one that's recently canceling people's orders and things like that. But like what do you think these companies, like, you think they're just so big that they just don't worry about this side of things, or like?
Yeah, I think the problem is funk. I don't know why they don't realize this by now. It's just become so huge that they're clearly having inventory issues. They, are allowing people to, I think bots are taking over they're hacking
Mhm.
into like the systems of buying all of the limited editions. Cause kind of how Miguel was saying, all these retailers, not only do they sell common pops, but they all get ones that are only they're limited to that store. So Target, Walmart, Hot Topic, Box Lunch, Amazon, like the list goes on. So whenever there are those special ones, everyone's going to Target to get, they seem to get a lot of limited edition Marvel ones. Marvel, I
Mhm.
would say it's probably one of Funko's, if not their biggest license. They normally
Yeah.
go pretty quick. And yeah, in today's day of age, they should not be messing this up. Like, I don't understand how people were ordering and then getting their stuff canceled. I know I had pre-ordered, kind of the story Miguel was alluding to, is this Black Panther Funko Pop that I was really excited about. Pre-ordered it a while ago. They just randomly canceled everyone's orders. They were freaking out. And then they, like, the computer system then put them back in stock. And some
Mhm.
people were able to get them. So now some people were able to get them after people had pre-ordered them months ago. And a lot of people think it was just bought up by like scalpers. The
Yeah.
scalping game is like a big problem in this community.
Yeah. Because I was gonna say, I mean, it's almost like two huge topics that we can get into in that aspect. But just sticking to like the retailer side thing, I agree with you, because it's just crazy because, like you said, maybe it's something that these companies don't know that Funko is as big as it is, or maybe they don't think, maybe they're just not prepared for it, whatever it is. I I don't know how long Target, for instance, we could talk about Target
Yeah.
specifically just because they were the most recent situation. So I wasn't affected by that because I didn't get to pre-order. That's a whole nother issue. So that's basically me trying to get on, and whether it's a bot or just them not having the inventory or whatever it is, things selling out like super fast, or middle of your cart, you have everything and then they sell out. And they do this stupid thing where it's kind of like they tell you it's not available, but they don't tell you which one's not available. So your
Yeah.
cart is all messed up. And it's so crazy because it's such a big company, and like these little technical things should be handled. But it's beyond that because it also happens in a store level. So I don't know if you've gone to try to get a drop at a store, Target specific, and just seen that like the employees don't even know what they're doing. The employees don't know that these things are coming in. The employees don't
No.
know that there's a drop. They don't know how to put them out correctly. They're selling too many, and then they limit it to certain SKUs. It's just been such a mess that, like, as a collector and as someone who's genuinely collecting these for myself, and all I do is make a video out of it, but then it goes right up on a shelf, is like it's tough because it makes you not want to go to them again, or it makes you not want to rely on that business. And we've had this conversation a lot in regards to pre-orders and directly ordering, and I know you're a huge pre-order person,
Yep.
so your big thing is you see it drop, pre-order, you go and get it, and then you wait for it, whatever it is, a lot of time, whatever. And that's what happened to you with this Black Panther one. But I've kind of slowly began to go away from pre-orders because I realized all these situations would happen, and I feel like it's just such a headache. So like I personally have kind of just been more like, okay, if I grab it at the store, I'll go and get it. but then even at the store level, it's still a mess.
Yeah, I
So it's
mean,
crazy.
I've had even it's funny. I used to be pretty big on going to the retail stores like to go hunt for pops. With the pandemic, didn't do that as much.
Hmm.
But I've had even at Target where, yeah, 9 out of 10 times the employees don't know anything. They don't know what the Funko Pops are, that a drop is supposed to happen. But then there are some who are definitely collectors, and I've seen them take the stash for themselves. I've witnessed it happen in the store that they were putting some. I remember vividly, I really wanted this Harry Potter Target exclusive Funko Pop, and I saw the guy unload the box, take the entire one that like I had wanted, and took them back for himself.
Oh,
That's just like, I mean, that's messed up.
yeah.
So I think that
Yeah,
happens
that's
a lot
crazy.
too, which is either, one people can say maybe that's a perk of having that job, but I'm sure
Yeah.
also 50% of them, even more, are just then going to go resell them.
Yeah, and that kind of like goes into the whole reseller thing, like you were saying before, in the sense of I I'm conflicted when it comes to resellers, right? So I'm not like the type of person that's going to sit here and say like I hate, the resellers. I think they're crazy, they're not good. But I'm also not the person that's like, oh, they're amazing. But I can kind of see why they're around and how it can be helpful sometimes. But
Yep.
then at the same time, I can see how it could be a pain. And like you said, I guess it depends on, because I personally know some people who they now are big enough to say they have an actual business selling Funko Pops, right? And I knew them when they were just random collectors and selling stuff on Instagram, things like that, right?
Yep.
So I see that aspect of it. If you're out there hustling, you're buying things, you're doing it the right way, and then you're selling them because you have a store, that's perfectly fine. I just think there's a lot of people out there, and you're probably gonna know about these people, is like that are just getting it because it's hot and they know it's going to sell and they can make money and
Yes.
they can care less. They probably sell a bunch of different things, not just
They're the
Funko
yeah, they're
Pops.
the people I'm talking about. I mean, that's been a huge thing during the pandemic, how card collecting has, skyrocketed, whether it's sports cards or Pokemon cards. And I mean,
Hmm.
people were like fighting people in Target to get these Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
And not to be stereotypical, but like these people probably weren't collecting Pokemon cards for themselves. They knew it was like the hottest thing at the moment. They went there and they were just, totally price gouging people on the internet. Like that, I personally can't stand for it. But you're
Yeah.
right. If you have a store, or if you're buying two and you're part of a community and you want to like then sell them to people, and if you upcharge a little bit because time is money, you
Hmm.
put the effort to go out there, I am cool with that, but not when you start to, just totally try to rip people off.
Yeah. I think that's another thing too, is like the price points that you see. Like you can tell when someone's just kind of selling it because, they had an extra one or they want to make a couple bucks or whatever. And then when someone's just like trying to really just cheat that system at the time because of how hot it is. But it's funny because it like sometimes it kind of bites them in the butt, because it's like they end up doing that and then they'll re-release it,
Yeah.
and then the price will go back to retail, and now like people are stuck with things trying to sell them at a higher value, and it's like they're kind of, they're not going to get anywhere with it. So I guess it kind of finds its way. I mean, with everything that you buy and collect, I'm sure there's people that will resell. That's just kind of the way it is. And then there's going to be the people that you get them directly through. So I think that's just something we're dealing with all the time. I think just as genuine collectors like us too, you can see some of the headaches that we go through when it comes to something we genuinely want. And we don't know if like a bot is going to take it versus like a genuine person who's like, okay, this is drop, I'm going to go in and buy it. Because that's what happened basically with me, where you got lucky with a pop that now is canceled. I wasn't even able to order it. So that's something that we go through all the time. And I'm sure you guys out there probably know what we're talking about. And if you've ever tried to order anything that was an exclusive, probably more than likely, because the general release stuff usually isn't too crazy, I would say. But when it comes to like these exclusive stuffs, I mean, and like it's funny that they say exclusive, but they don't have piece counts a lot of these times. It's just that it's only sold at that store. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's very limited. It's just that they're the only ones with it. Now, if they have inventory issues, like you kind of talked about before, that's a whole another thing. But I mean, that's kind of like my aspect of that. I mean, in sense of like just how crazy that reselling market and that kind of thing can go. But I also see some of the positives of like being able to go onto a website like Whatnot or Macari or something and buying something off of somebody. Like I that aspect of reselling is fine with me, like
And
because
it's
you're helping
fun.
out
That
someone
makes it
else.
fun a little bit
Hmm.
too. It's like you know everyone for the most part enjoys that community. Not everyone,
Hmm.
but most of them do.
Yeah, yeah, and it's exactly kind of like it's its own community in the sense of like you recognizing names and selling or reselling or buying or whatever it is, anything that has to do with pops like that. So, but we want to talk about some news. So I know we want to make sure that this is brought up every week just to kind of give you guys an idea of just what Funko's doing in the last week. So our show's going to be on every week, and we're going to kind of recap what happened last week in terms of some drops that we were excited about, whether they actually dropped or were announced, that kind of thing, and just kind of go back and forth. I just kind of want to pick your brain on just what you think of some of these
Yeah.
drops because there was a lot of stuff, and we talked about it before that Funko is dropping stuff all the time. They are nonstop with like different pops, different sodas, things like that. So a couple things I know that dropped that I know probably you would be excited for. I don't know if you saw this, but as a Marvel fan, they announced some Doctor Strange, the multiverse pops, but they didn't show any of them. I don't know if you saw that. It was a
I did.
list
I did.
that basically they're gonna be dropping, right? And I knew as soon as I saw that, I was like, Charlie's gonna love this. I know he's gonna want these. I know he's a huge Marvel fan, so that's a big one, I think. I mean, what do you think about that? Obviously, the movie's not out yet,
Well, it's
so
funny. That's like a whole other thing about collecting, not to go off on a tangent, but
yeah.
a lot of movies and TV shows are now spoiled because of collectibles, especially Funko. So,
Hmm.
like, because I mean, that movie is not coming out until next March,
Yeah.
and these listings now are spoiling characters. Or
Yeah.
sometimes it's kind of just saying that they're, a certain amount are coming out in a wave. You get both,
Yeah.
like both. But I'm really excited for those pops, and I've now expected the Marvel lines to just be huge. Like, even
Yeah.
they're so big.
Yeah. Cause I was gonna say, I mean, Marvel, like when you said it, Marvel probably is one of their biggest licenses, honestly. Because the two big comic DC and Marvel is probably the two biggest. I feel like with Funko, they've really attached. I think early on, DC was huge for
Yes,
them. Batman was one of the OGs. So like that was a huge thing for them. But then Marvel and I think the MCU is really what
it
drove it
is.
even
Yes,
more. And it's the same thing happening. It's crazy that you said that, but I think the spoiling thing isn't even with shows and movies in general. It's mostly Marvel ones. Because if you
you're
notice
right. It
a
is.
lot of the times it's been a movie or a Marvel movie or a Marvel show that hasn't dropped because they did I believe they did it with Black Widow before it dropped. They just recently did it with the Spider-Man. Like the day the trailer dropped, if not the day before, they already had those pops
Pops.
basically lined up. So obviously Funko's got the in with these studios and stuff where they are because they have to make the molds, they have to, approve all that stuff. So they must know a lot of stuff ahead of time. So that's okay that they do. So I just don't know if some of this stuff is more of a leak because like this one specifically isn't original Funko that's dropping it. So
Correct.
it could be a leak, but it's out there and you know that it's
Part
going to
of the
be.
issue too is I think we live obviously in strange times where these movies were all supposed to have come out like already or at a certain time, and Funko is definitely given. They definitely, you work for that company, they're getting the inside secrets for all these
Yeah.
movies because they have to make the molds,
Hmm.
and they would have came out at a certain time to start promoting the movie, where some of these movies like have been so delayed because of the pandemic. I'm surprised Disney hasn't told them, you need to hold off on releasing these. Like, I know the Shang-Chi pops had dropped before the trailer even did.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Like, that never happens. I'm hoping now that, film production is getting more back to normal, that this won't happen anymore. Because I mean, I'm someone who likes to read spoilers, but also don't. It really depends.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite. I don't ever want spoilers at
But
all.
like, one thing that was brilliant, which I don't know if you're aware of this, but no one knew about Baby Yoda, aka Grogu, in The Mandalorian, because they made a decision not to make any merchandise of that,
Okay.
because the film studios have now known like that is the biggest way to get leaks. So when that show came out, obviously Baby Yoda, who now everyone, his name is Grogu, was like
Hmm.
the hottest thing ever. And it was
Hmm.
Christmas time. There was absolutely no toys. And it's
Hmm.
like a give or take. Like I, as a fan, I'm actually surprised Disney did that for such a huge corporation. They lost a lot of money around the holidays not being able to sell that merchandise, but they did it for the integrity of the movie or the
Yeah.
show. It's so it goes both ways.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was gonna say, I'm sure the timing of it probably was bad for them in that sense. But when it did drop, all you saw was Baby Yoda
Yoda.
everywhere, and it
And
was the biggest thing that everyone wanted, and they were buying all the toys and the figures. I mean, you have one right back there,
yeah,
and all the Funko and everything, and it was like it was huge.
it
But
worked in their
I
favor.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like it being a surprise, blowing up, and then everyone going after it because it's the hottest thing at that time, rather than like killing a spoil. And like, I mean, a spoiler is different. I mean, I guess if it's just a character that you know is in it, that's one thing. But if it's you see something the way they look, especially I guess when it comes to Marvel, it's very, very different because Marvel has this whole universe going on where like certain characters are intertwined into other ones, so you don't know if they're going to be there, and that's going to affect the storyline, which affects the movie and affects like things like that. So I think that way it's a little tricky because then it's like if it's to Shang-Chi pop, right, and it's him, you know he's in it. It's the
Exactly.
movie that's different, but there could be one character that comes in for one scene, but they make a pop out of him because they know he's gonna be a big deal. That now you're like, okay, that's gonna affect the movie or whatever. So it's interesting. I just knew that with this Doctor Strange one, I was like, all right, that's cool that they're gonna make. I mean, like you said, they're gonna make every Marvel movie and show now, and every one that has come out, they have made big waves of pops for them. So they've pretty much gotten every character of a movie or a show, even like little side ones with Marvel specifically. So I feel
Yeah.
like that's gonna kind of be the way it goes going forward. Um, but yeah, that was a big one. I know they dropped a lot of. I saw a few things for some new Pokemon pops are coming out. My Hero Academia pops. I don't know if you collect that. I'm not really big into
I'm not.
anime,
Yeah,
but
but
I know it's a big world. I know there's a lot of people out there that do collect it. So I know that those are some new ones going out. As a Star Wars guy, though, I don't know if you saw these, but there's some fig pins. I don't know if you collect fig pins
I have a
or
few. I do
know
have a
of
few
them.
fake pins. Yeah,
So they
they're
did release a few of those.
for A New
Uh,
Hope. I think the original
with
Star
New Hope.
Wars.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. So it's pretty cool because it's kind of more of the OG. It's like maybe it'll get some of those collectors in it. I don't have any fig pins. It's a Funko product for all you guys out there who may not know what fig pin is. So Funko makes a lot of different things. Obviously, they make pops, which are the big, 4-inch pops like this. They make bigger versions of them. They make Funko sodas, but fig pins, and then they also make pop pins. They're two
Yeah,
different
I don't.
things.
Fig Pins is not a Funko brand.
No, okay,
It's not
is it?
actually. It's not.
So who?
So they've kind of, there's a standalone company. They kind of blew up. I actually think they stole a bunch of people who used to work for Funko to go over
It's
there.
got to be because
It is.
it's
So then
literally
Funko's rebuttal to that was the pop
pop
pins.
pins. Okay, so that makes sense. Because if you think about it, well, if I think about it now, the characters look more like the characters, not
They
necessarily
look
like a
real. Yeah.
pop version of them or anything. But that's a cool. I mean, that's definitely like a its own little space. I mean, it's a pin, which is kind of weird, I guess. That's why I never got into them. But I know that in this community and everything, a lot of people know about them or at least collect them. You said you have a few. I don't have
I have
anything when it comes
two.
to
I
fig
have a
pins.
Mandalorian and a Baby
Okay.
Yoda one.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, they seem pretty cool. I just know that I saw those coming out. Obviously, as like a Star Wars fan, I'm sure you would see them and those people. Because the thing is with Star Wars, I mean, we can probably just have an entire hour-long
Yeah.
episode just on Star Wars collectibles because of how many different like companies that make Star Wars stuff. But just on the Funko front, I guess that was well, not even Funko, just on like our end of
Did
things,
you
that would be one
see
thing.
the that there's gonna be a balloon in the Macy's Day Parade of
Yes,
Grogu?
that's yes, I did see that. And there's
So
a pop.
it's a, I like, to me this is like, this is a brilliant marketing like campaign, which I'm a sucker for like this type of thing. So like I'm gonna want to have this pop. Now I do think this one actually is limited.
Yes.
But So everyone obviously knows Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, the huge balloons. Funko is going to have their first one ever, and the character that it is Baby Yoda, aka Grogu, and they're
Mhm.
making a pop of that balloon, but it looks like it is the
Like it's
balloon,
floating. Yeah, like it's
and
floating
it's going to
above
be
it.
exclusive to Funko Shop and Macy's. Like Macy's does
Okay.
not sell Funko Pops, but it's going to have,
Yeah.
for all you collectors, you obviously know, and for those who don't, when they have these exclusive places, there's like stickers on the boxes.
Mhm.
So this is going to have like a Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade sticker. I think this is going to
Okay.
be pretty. You can only get it in the New York City Macy's, or I think Funko's going to have a certain amount allotted to them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm
they've
sure
gone a
it's gonna
little
be very
crazy with
limited.
it. They're making, there's a hoodie, there's t-shirts, there's, I think
Yeah, that's
it's
the only thing. I mean,
ridiculous.
it's a
To
cool
me,
idea. I saw it and I was like, that's pretty cool. I mean, when I saw that it was going to be an actual balloon, I was like, all right, well, that's cool. That's like, it's a big deal. It's Macy's Thanksgiving parade. It's like it's probably very hard to get a balloon if you're
yeah,
like a certain company or whatever in there. So like it's pretty cool that they got that's the first time. It probably opens up the thing now where they're gonna probably try to have one every year. But it was a cool one. I think it's something that a lot of people, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not, who that is or you know of it at least. So on that aspect, it's brilliant, of course, because they know everything Star Wars essentially kind of sells. Making a pop out of it was a little funny when I saw it, like an actual figure, but it being limited makes it kind of cool because then it's very, very, like specific, like you said, to Macy's and stuff. If they kind of go crazy with it with merchandise stuff, like you said, they're doing, that's a little much in
yeah.
my
See,
opinion.
that's
But
where I understand at the end of the day, this is a business, and Funko is, taking advantage of, unfortunately, their fans because they know they're going to buy stuff.
absolutely.
But I will say, as a huge fan, I want the one pop. I do think everything else is getting ridiculous with this one thing, where this is where Funko used to be, and now they're so huge where we keep saying how they make so many. I thought it was a great idea to make the Funko Pop of this balloon and then call it a day, not have
Hmm.
multiple different versions and all this other. They legitimately made a line for this one balloon for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yeah,
It's a little overboard.
they get a little crazy with that stuff. I mean, like you said, it's because they know they're probably gonna make money. They're gonna sell it, and people are gonna buy stuff either way. Because every time they drop something on the Funko Shop, they'll usually drop like an exclusive. There's T-shirts of
Yep.
the exclusive. There's the keychains. Like they kind of like really milk it as much as they can. So I mean, it's the first one, so I guess they'll see kind of how it goes and if it's even worth having something like that, like on the Funko side, or having the pops or having all the extra merchandise, and then I guess they'll kind of see from there. I'm sure it's gonna sell, so they'll probably be doing it again,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have to deal with it again with a different character. Maybe it'll be like
Yep.
Spider-Man or something next time, but I'm sure they're gonna figure something out. Um, but actually, on Marvel side of things, this one was, I know, a huge, huge drop that we saw was the new What If zombies.
Yes.
So those are sick.
Those are sick. And yes, I be honest, I want them all. But this once again goes like, have you seen the episode yet?
Yes. Yes.
Did they need to make one of every zombie that appeared?
Yeah.
No, they didn't. But that's what
But
they.
that's what I'm saying. Like now they're with and that's why it's, like I said, even shows with every show and movie that Marvel has recently dropped, they're making every character for that movie or show.
Yeah.
And when it comes to something like this, like specifically this show, first of all, that's one episode. That's not even a show. It's just an episode that they basically made an entire
Which
wave
was
off
30
of.
minutes.
Exactly. It's a short episode. If you guys haven't watched it, watch What If. I think it was amazing.
It
I
was.
don't
It
know.
was
We can
awesome.
have a conversation about that, but like, yeah, I loved it. I love the animation that they used. It was really cool. Like that's why I
Yes.
think I really liked it. And then obviously we know the characters, so we love that story and everything. But of course, if you guys don't know, there's a storyline where there's zombies versions of these. Now they dropped it. It had to be right after the episode, probably, or soon after, right when they
Yeah.
kind of, because the episode just
That was
recently.
great timing. Like, this is the way I think it should be. Episode dropped,
Yes,
and then the merchandise, they, teased it out and launched it.
exactly. But like you said, they really just milked the fact of getting every single, because even in the show, some of these zombie characters that you see them for a minute.
A
Like
minute.
some were super quick. And I mean, it's cool to make a pop of it, but I personally think they should have dropped maybe 3 or 4 of the main ones, maybe a couple versions of those pops, and then down the line drop like an exclusive out of nowhere of one of the other ones, maybe, versus
Yes.
all of them coming out at once. And like, because I like surprise. Like, I don't know if you do, but like, I rather see 5 pops of a line and then months down the line, 2 exclusives come out rather than see all 7 of those pops showing up, knowing that they're going to be coming out. Because then I don't know, it takes it like, then now people can really prepare on like, getting these bots ready and getting, and like,
Yeah.
stuff's gonna sell so much faster than it would have if it was just a drop. You go, you get on, it's like exciting, like, oh my god, did you see this one? But I love them, man. Like you said, I want them all too because they made these look so sick.
Yeah,
Like
they're
it
cool.
looks like them, like the way. And there's also a soda. I know we talked about that for a while. So I'm a huge Funko soda collector. Charlie's getting into it. I'm gonna get him into it even more. But the Captain America one that they came out with is so
It's
sick.
cool.
And then I'm also a big fan of like the 10-inch pops. I try not to get so many of them because, of course, they take so much room, but they dropped an Iron Man one and a Captain America one. So those are cool ones. But like we said in the beginning, I'm waiting on those. I'm not pre ordering any of them. I'm going to wait. I want to see where I can get them. I want to see how easily I can get it at an actual source that I'll get right away and not have to worry about pre ordering stuff, especially with the debacles that are going on recently. But yeah, that was one of the big drops I
While we're
saw
on that
that.
topic, though, I
Yeah.
want to ask you a question of your opinion on when they make these lines. So
Mm-hmm.
Captain America, for example, spoilers for anyone, but he was one of the characters that was a zombie in this episode. Do you really think they needed to make like 2 different versions? That's one with a shield, one without a shield, and one's a Funko like shop exclusive, and that's like the only difference. Like, I don't like when they do that.
Yeah. So, well, they made a glow in the dark one too, I think, right? Or is that the Iron Man one?
That's the Iron Man one. So then that's the
Okay, yeah. So
same
they did
thing
this. So they
too.
did the same thing, but there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So I. So here's the thing. I don't like when they do that. I hate when molds are like the same, and they still do that. I mean, it's so crazy because I think us as collectors, we've been shouting at Funko about this since forever, but they still do it where they'll even have a mold from 4 years ago, and they'll replenish it
yeah,
now with like you said, it might glow. It's the exact same mold, same color, and it just has a glow
everything.
or whatever it is. And based off of this drop, I don't think they should have done that. Like, I agree. Like, they should have made the pop. I'm okay with making a 4-inch and a 10-inch,
Me too.
even if it's the same mold. That's
It's
fine.
different.
Yeah, it's still different. It's a bigger version. It just looks different. It's cool. They could look exactly the same, but it's a little bit bigger. Usually, I don't know if you have a lot of 10-inch pops, but usually with 10-inch pops, they put more detail into them. So
Yes.
even if it's the same, it looks a little bit different. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with glow in the dark and flocked and things like that. But I think it kind of goes back to what I said before. I'm okay with it dropping maybe a little bit later as like an exclusive, and maybe they change the mold a little, like the pose. But no, they announced all these and they're exactly the same. And there's, I don't know, it's just like overkill a little bit, but I get why they do it because people buy it.
Buy them. Yeah.
So like at the end of the day, we're sitting here, ranting and hollering about it, but most people like us still buy it. So it kind of, they're gonna still keep doing it, I think.
Yeah, they
But
will.
but I think what's happening is the whole I don't know what you want to call it, but the whole thing of a chase when it comes to pops kind of is like slowly disappearing
Yeah.
because chases were a lot bigger back then. Chases basically, if you guys don't know, it's a 1 in 6 chance of a variant of that pop. So they come out with a pop, and then for every 6 that come out, one of them will look completely different. Well, some chases are lazy, but they're supposed to look completely different. And I feel like maybe because when sodas came out, majority of sodas have a chase. I feel like a lot of pops don't have chases anymore. So like now they're just releasing different versions and just saying like, okay, now we have 4 SKUs that we can sell because we just made it,
Yeah.
for
It's,
little differences, that kind of thing.
I feel like they want, going back to Marvel being their biggest license, they take advantage of the Marvel fan because I find it interesting. So this episode's another great example. Spider-Man's character, they made a version with no mask and a version with the mask, and they're just both coming out with this line. It's not a chase. But for the Mandalorian, for everyone who knows, there's a character called Bo-Katan, who is a really popular character. She was in the Clone Wars, and then she came back. They actually made it a chase in the new line, one with the helmet and one without. They didn't just drop both of them. It's like
Mhm.
sometimes I'm like, what makes them decide to do that? And
Yeah.
not, I think it's they know Marvel fans are going to buy them all. The Star Wars, even though Star Wars is my favorite, and I think the MCU is just so popular now. It's like the
Yeah.
most broad. It's actually made like fandom more mainstream. They
Yeah.
know people are probably buying more of them than they are the Star Wars ones. I don't know if that's why they're doing it. It's just weird.
Yeah, it could be because you have your hardcore fans who have always loved Marvel or know the comics or know everything before the MCU really, and then you just have like movie fans and people who just happen to like the movies because of their action and they're like
Yeah.
a villain and a superhero. So like that's probably why, because they know it's gonna sell. But I totally agree. I mean, I think that Bo-Katan one is cool because now the chase is very rare and well, it's more rare and it's like harder to get versus you knowing there's the same amount of three different
Yeah.
pops that are out there. But I guess like you said, it's more skews, so it's more money for them, I
And
guess.
then they made a
But
metallic one too, like three pops of the same character. Like it's
yeah,
just,
it's crazy.
it's crazy.
I don't like that aspect of it. I like when I see some of these drops and I like some of the detail that they're putting into some of these characters, but some of the figures it really does. It's kind of like, I mean, this is kind of going off tangent a little bit, but it's kind of like the Captain America diecast that recently came out.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very standard mold that we've seen forever, but they did change it. But at least I feel like if they changed the mold, it probably would have been even more popular. Because I feel like I saw a lot of people who were kind of 50-50 on that.
I
And it's
probably
kind
would
of
have
like
wanted it if it was special just for that. But you're right, it
something
wasn't.
different.
On my shelf, I mean, if you keep, obviously, I would keep that one probably in the box and you would know if you're a
Yeah.
collector. But if not, if it was side by side to the other pop, it looks exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Except for like the case on the outside. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, talking about Captain America, though, they did drop another one on news front with the old man
Yeah.
cap,
That looks cool.
which is an Amazon exclusive, I believe, right?
Yep.
That that looks really cool. I mean, that is a movie moment. I think now I'm torn on this though, because I want to see what you think as a Marvel fan. Like, do you like that they keep going back to old Marvel movies and just coming up with these like scenes that are like from years ago now? Or like, are you okay with it because some of them are like pretty cool or like,
It's funny. I'm indifferent. To me, like I want that pop because I think it's really cool. I think it would have been better as like a Comic-Con exclusive. I don't mind like I don't know if you've ever gone to like any of the Comic Cons, but when they have their booths there, traditionally in the past, like they would bring back like one or two per whatever license there was, and there was
Mhm.
something special about it. To me, that's what this should have been for, not just you're right. Like this movie's now a few years old. Like, why are they making this now?
Yeah. Yeah, I
I,
think like I know we can definitely go. We'll probably in a future episode have to talk about that cons in person versus a virtual thing because that's a huge
yeah,
thing right now. Because I know there's a big difference in how Funko is operating because of that. But on the aspect of that, yeah, I totally agree. Like it could totally be something that so it's obviously probably not very limited. It's Amazon, so it's going to be an exclusive that's going to be probably
yep.
out there, pretty big amount of them. It's super cool, but I do agree that sometimes I feel like they just kind of go back to something just to kind of just because they know it's going to sell. I feel like it's happening a lot with Marvel more than other
Yes.
things. Like it really has been more than Marvel. I'm trying to think of something else. I don't know if anything specific, but it does happen a lot with Marvel where it's like, all right, these movies are a few years old, especially because of the way Marvel is built with these phases that now we're starting to move on to these new phases. These new shows are coming out, these new movies are coming out, there's a storyline's completely changing. We don't really need stuff from the old stuff coming out. I think us as Marvel fans, we think it's cool. And like this pop specifically, this looks like I wish this came out before.
Exactly.
Like when it was really hot and it was a big deal. I think it would have been amazing. I think it's still gonna sell. It's still pretty cool in my mind, but I agree. It's a little weird sometimes when they go back like
I
that.
wonder
But
if they're just a little afraid now that like there aren't going to be any more movies with Captain America. So we know he's
yeah,
one of the most popular characters of all time.
yeah,
We gotta keep making pops. They could be
yeah. I mean,
thinking
they're
that
gonna.
too.
they're gonna be. We're gonna see more of the regular Captain America
Yeah,
standard
this
pop again in a different, variation of it. Like obviously they just dropped the blacklight version of him recently, so they're still gonna keep recycling it, which it's whatever, it's fine, but it makes sense, like you said. Maybe
yeah.
that's something that they're gonna do. Was there anything else you saw? I did see actually something I thought you probably would like. The Dante Alabrije. I don't know if you saw that glow in the dark from Coco.
Oh, you know what? I did just see that. That one looks cool. It's
That
a
looks pretty
box launch
cool.
exclusive, right?
Yeah, box lunch, glow in the dark. So that's a pretty cool one because I love Coco. Coco's one of my favorite Pixar movies, like of all time. But they have only a few pops for Coco, and then they have the Pepita one, which is that big,
Yep.
it's like a 6 inch I think they came out with, but they don't have Dante, which was his dog. But it's pretty cool because it looks cool. It's colorful. I think it'll be something that'll sell. It's that box lunch show. I mean, I saw Pepita ones sitting for a while. Like I went into a box lunch way later and they were still there. So I'm sure it's gonna be something that might sit around, but it's a cool drop that I saw that for like something that I like, I think would be pretty cool. And then the last thing I was going to talk about on my end, I don't know if you have any other news, was just it just had to do with the Target blacklight pops now are coming into store. I don't know if you've seen that. So I don't know if you've come across any of them, but now they're finally dropping in the store.
Yeah. It's
But that's
funny.
a
I went.
fiasco, man.
It's a fiasco. I'd called my Target and to see if they had any, and they said no. But I feel like it's really hard to get Funko Pops in stores now of like the limited ones. I don't know if it's just they're popular around where I live. I just think it's really hard to get them now.
Yeah.
My opinion,
I
when they're those limited ones.
I think it is. I think it is too. And I think is what's weird is it targets at different places are so different because I see people posting stuff at targets in different states and stuff, and
Yep.
they're just like loaded. And then I walk into one of my targets and it's like they never even got anything. So it's a whole nother thing. I don't know.
Yeah, my Target doesn't. They did back in the day, and now, yeah, I don't see anything. I always go and look, and it's like the collectible section at this point is just like a mess. It looks like
Yeah,
a tornado went through it,
it
and
is.
it's just a bunch of random ones that nobody wants. Though it's funny, the Marvel ones that had come out not that long ago, I think they were, I don't even know what the series was, but they kind of had the logos of whatever the pop was all over them. And
Yeah,
they
like
were
the
like,
artists,
yeah,
they
yeah,
were like
but
an artist one.
yeah, and the red, white, and blue type silver
But
ones.
yeah, but they were very specific
No
to
one wants
yeah.
those. They're all
No,
there.
no. And they came out with so many. That's what's crazy. They came out with so many of those. They weren't limited. They were just a ton.
And
They were
they're
just a
more
Target
money
exclusive.
than a
Oh
normal pop.
yeah, yeah. And then they had some with a T-shirt. I know the Captain America one was a T-shirt bundle. I mean, it came in one of those hard because it's like the artist series. So it came in one of those
Oh, it did come with a hard
those
case.
cheap hard cases. They're so
Yeah.
cheap though. But it was just that it was like an artist series, I guess, is why it came out like that. But they were just hideous. I mean, honestly, I thought those things were ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
I think artist series, I can go in and like in on artist series in general because some of them I think are okay, but then sometimes it's such a mess. Like I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I have very few of them.
Yeah, not a big deal with that. But did you see anything
No,
in
you
the last week?
definitely you hit all the big ones.
Yeah, those are the ones I saw that definitely, at least I knew would excite me. I know you were probably excited for most of those.
Yeah, I don't think
There's
there was any new DC pops really that were coming out.
no, the only thing I saw was the Imperial, not the Imperial, the the DC
I know what
Day
you're
of the
talking
Dead,
about.
the Day of the Dead ones.
Oh
Dia de los
yeah.
Muertos. Those are starting to hit stores. Hot Topic, I believe, is who has them now. I think there's an exclusive to them. Those I think I had pre-ordered actually, which is funny because I don't pre-order much, but I think I had pre-ordered those because I actually pretty big fan of that kind of stuff. Like anything that comes out like Batman, Joker, that kind of thing, I usually try to get or try to pre-order. But I think I saw those, but I didn't see too much news on like new.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to think about it. There's not much for Funko to use right now. There's not many movies. Like it makes me think like, are they gonna do that new Batman movie? Like it's weird. Like I don't see those things translating into Funko as easy as like Marvel does.
No.
So it's gonna be interesting
They never make
if
as
they're
many.
even gonna do that. Yeah, and I feel like what they do with DC is they'll recycle just a different color variant or version versus it specifically being a version of a like a movie or a show that just, kind of came out.
Yeah, but
But yeah, I
that
don't know about
that
that.
was most of the big drops. But as we know, there will be plenty more that keep coming. And I feel like they're always dropping things. Like I know they make a lot of Avatar, The Last Airbender. I'm like not personally into that, but I feel like they keep dropping a bunch of them. That series seems to be becoming more and more popular in the Funko world.
Hmm.
I noticed some new ones recently, but
Yeah, that and any of the animes and stuff in general are going to be pretty popular. I mean, they have a huge following of people that collect them, whether they watch, the actual anime or they just like the figures. And I dabble with, Dragon Ball Z, see them appear. I mean, as when I was younger, like I really was into that. That was something I watched, but then I kind of didn't really follow too many other ones. So with a lot of these new ones coming out, I'm not like
yeah,
too on board with them, but I mean, they look pretty cool. They make really good molds. I don't know if you really like look at some of them. Like they actually make them look pretty good, like as a figure or as a
they
toy.
lend.
But
Yeah, I feel like
but
the
I just don't
figures.
know them enough, yeah, to like collect them. And they do make a lot of them and
Yeah,
variations of them, like you said. But yeah, so that's just kind of the news that's going on right now, just within the last week. But we're gonna probably wrap it up here. Um, Thank you guys so much for listening in and watching. If you're watching now on YouTube, so like I said, just a couple of things. We're gonna be dropping these podcasts every week, but you can also watch us on YouTube. So make sure that you are subscribed to our channel, Collector Chatter. Also follow us on Instagram. So I know on Instagram we kind of just recently dropped our logo and stuff, but we're going to be a little bit more active on there for you guys. And we'll kind of see what you guys think of this. Make sure you guys comment, what you guys thought about this episode. If you guys want anything specific to talk about or a topic or anything, we'll be willing to, chat about it, of course. And obviously, we're going to keep coming up with some of this news and stuff for you guys, just to kind of keep you guys in tune with what's going on, specifically more with Funko, but that kind of thing. Charlie, anything you want to add?
yeah. No, thanks everyone for listening, and definitely, like Miguel said, let us know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't, what you want to hear us talk about. We're definitely open to talking about, even if we, start talking about some of the movies that the collectibles that we like are coming out. And like we said, there's Legos out there. There's just so many different types of collectibles
The
that we could
world,
talk
it's a
about.
huge world.
So yeah, I mean, we're excited, and I think this is going to be real fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be fun as we get more and more of this stuff going, and the news will keep coming because there's always things coming out, and it might spark something new. But definitely, like Charlie said, let us know. We'll get into more conversations on some other topics and stuff like that, some general things, and then maybe some specific other collectibles besides Funko. We'll kind of dabble into. I know we want to start talking about sodas soon, so that'll be something we'll
Yep.
talk about. Maybe we'll open up some sodas for you guys. I know I got Charlie getting into that, so
Yeah, we'll
we'll
open up
see.
some of those next week, maybe.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Like I said, my name is Miguel. This is Charlie. This is Collector Chatter. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, later, everyone.
Take it easy.